Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like.
I don't think any wartime propaganda is good, but I didn't think I'd be saying, wow, there's better wartime propaganda and worse wartime propaganda, because what we're seeing now is really an absolute disregard for the severity, seriousness of war.
When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
At the helm of this war, there are two personalities, Donald Trump and the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. Both of these individuals are known for their obsession with spectacle and using that to create this messaging that drowns out any sense of nuance, purpose, and simply focuses on domination.
They have to distract from the fact that they shredded 175 school children, from the fact that U.S. troops are dying, from the fact that they're spending $1 billion a day, or that gas prices are shooting through the roof and the Strait of Hormuz is closing to all kinds of traffic. Those are not good looks for the administration. And the alternative is to create media spectacle.
Wake up, Daddy's home.
In an era where the word unprecedented seems overused, this video, this piece of war propaganda produced by the government of the United States and released a week after the USA and Israel launched an illegal war on Iran, this was definitely unprecedented.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The video was a chaotic fast cut of Hollywood clips with snatches of bombastic dialogue spliced together with footage of bombs falling on Iranian targets. The grainy black and white explosions were not followed by images of those who were killed, like the more than 170 civilians, most of them children, who were amongst the first to be struck in this war. 3 American bombs landed on a school in the city of Minab in southern Iran. Bombs like those are nothing more than raw material for the Trump administration's social media team that has churned out clip after clip of dehumanizing war as entertainment content.
You want to see me do it again?
The gamification of war really starts in the 1970s and then starts to build with the first Gulf War in the 1990s, then really take off.
The shock and awe campaign was kicked off over Iraq with thunderous explosions.
Where you have the invasion of Iraq, but also game companies giving players gameable experiences based on the war. And you have the average American citizen being invited on every level to kind of step into the boots of the soldier.
Mortar fire! Incoming!
And I think that matters because soldiers are not charged with asking critical questions. The American people are. Congress and the American public and a civilian president have the final say as to whether the military will be activated. So the gamification of war really throws a wrench into that whole process. It submerges and depresses that critical instinct.
I think the point here is to trivialize US violence by turning it into a viral trend and turning it into entertainment. And I think, this is a broader point that we need to make here. One of the purposes of holding war, holding violence with a level of sobriety and seriousness is because it implies a regard for human life, human rights, human values. Now, if you remove that and you trivialize it, what you're doing is just saying, we don't care about human rights.
Maximum lethality, not tepid legality. Violent effect, not politically correct. We're going to raise up warriors.
We've seen this narrative from the Secretary of War, who used to be the Secretary of Defense, but who literally changed his name to Secretary of War, because there's this notion that prior to the Trump administration, America was becoming weak, and part of this was the lack of quote-unquote war-fighting ethos in the Pentagon. So you now have this hyper-masculinity in the Pentagon that views war as violence, its aggressiveness, it's non-apologetic.
Any critique of the US and Israel's war on Iran has led Trump and his officials and allies to double down.
This is a terrorist government. This is a terroristic regime.
Iran was the head of the snake for global terrorism everywhere.
The mothership of terrorism is sinking. The captain is dead. Well done, President Trump.
The social media videos have also only seemed to get worse. In this AI-generated tale of a group of rebellious bowling pins representing Iran, a bowling ball, the United States, takes them all down. The whole thing was a riff on a popular meme.
If you've been on the internet at all in the last 20 years, you have seen this clip of a bowling champion taking an impossibly difficult shot during a tournament. That meme has been excerpted over the years and used for a number of things. In this specific instance, it is turned into the U.S. taking strike against Iran. The bowling pins have become representatives of Iran. So they're standing there, they're holding these signs, and here comes the U.S. of A. in the form of a bowling ball down the lane that completely takes them out. It's a cartoon version of events, and it turns it into something that is entertaining and builds on mimetic muscle memory that people who are really into pop culture have.
Well, I have kids and I watch a lot of AI slop, and this would fit right in. It is so silly, but the fact that it's coming out of the White House tells us something about how seriously they're taking this conflict. And they're signaling to the American people that they don't really care to do a proper campaign that explains in detail why blood and treasure is being committed to this, why we're putting troops in danger, why we're spending $1 billion a day, why innocent civilians are dying on the ground. They're not explaining that. They're doing something quite different.
If we look at the genesis of where this type of information mimetic warfare came from, we really saw this take off after October the 7th, and the Israeli and the IDF communications and the official Israeli accounts really did get into this mimetic warfare using cartoons, using videos to try and trivialize Palestinian suffering, to trivialize genocide. This war, regardless of the many explanations we've given, is a joint US-Israeli war.
It is a great honor for us to fight with you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Likewise, gentlemen.
And so it does not surprise me to see that we're seeing the same aesthetic blend between Israeli and US accounts in the perpetuation of this mimetic war.
The aesthetic blend on one side of this war is contrasted by a significant aesthetic break with the other side. The pithy, bombastic, triumphant tweets from Washington, D.C. and Tel Aviv couldn't be more different from the detailed and outraged messaging from Tehran.
When we're thinking about the comparison of messaging between what's coming out of the Trump administration and what's coming from Iran, you've got entertainment and propaganda on one side, whereas the messaging that's coming from Iran, you've got very specific messages that talk about the nature of the conflict, the scope of the conflict, and how Iran is able to defend itself and why it should be able to defend itself. That discipline is quite different, and it should be a warning sign to those of us in the United States that while our country is engaging in propaganda that draws on pop culture messaging, the enemies that have been positioned for us are not thinking about this in the same way. It is a very serious matter for them. They are not kidding around.
One of the key differences between the US memes and the Iranian memes is the level of intellect or depth, right? The Iranian ones are attempting to make a bit more of a biting, satirical, political commentary. So, for example, one of the memes shows Trump at a press conference, and he's asked about the strike on the Minab school, which killed Iranian schoolgirls. And you see the camera zoom into Trump's mind, and in his mind, you see sat at the table these kind of evil, satanic-looking creatures that are debating how to respond to this.
They have been literally obliterated. The Air Force is gone. The Navy is gone.
This is a real red flag for democracy. The Trump administration doesn't think that the American public or Congress should be asked for permission. It's a dictatorial move to go ahead with something that massive without consulting the American people or Congress. So gone are the days where you have real reasons and real arguments for conducting a military campaign. And we're entering into a phase where you don't ask, and instead, after the fact, there's a strong signaling campaign that you better keep your mouth shut and get on board.
Thanks for watching. Leave us a like or a comment to let us know what you thought about anything we covered this week. The links to our social media and our newsletter are in the description. That's where you can follow us for updates from the show.